Chicago, 1984, a city split in two. Downtown, the skyline gleamed with steel and glass. But miles south, the streets told a different story. Factories were closing, jobs disappearing, gunshots echoing through neighborhoods that felt forgotten. Still, on cracked concrete courts, under rusted backboards, basketball was the language everyone spoke. It was escape, it was hope, and no one embodied that more than Benjamin Wilson. Benji, 17 years old, 6'8", ranked the #1 high school player in America, the first ever from Chicago. He wasn't just another talent, he was the talent, smooth, effortless, a guard's handle in a forward's body, a jump shot so pure it drew silence before it even dropped. Crowds lined up outside Simeon hours before tip-off, just for a glimpse. College coaches fought for space in the bleachers. Every kid on the south side knew his number, 25. Because if Benji could make it, maybe they could too. And then, one morning, without warning, the city's brightest light went dark. To understand Benjamin Wilson, you have to understand where he came from. The south side of Chicago was more than just a neighborhood, it was its own universe. Every block had a court, every court had a legend. In the early 80s, Chicago high school basketball was exploding. Guys like Sonny Parker and Isaiah Thomas were proving the city could produce NBA stars, but no one had ever been named the best high school player in the entire country until Benji. He grew up in Chatham, a middle-class pocket surrounded by tougher streets. Raised by his mother Mary and stepfather, Benji was the second of 3 sons. From the start, he was different. By 14, he was already 6'3" with the coordination of a guard. By 16, he was dominating the Chicago Public League, a battleground of raw talent, rough gyms, and rowdy crowds. And when he stepped onto the court for Simeon High School, everything changed. Simeon was already known for producing tough, disciplined players, but with Benji in blue and gold, they had something else, a player who could make the game look effortless and make the crowd believe they were witnessing greatness. He wasn't just putting up numbers, he was doing it with style. No-look passes, fadeaway jumpers, fast breaks that ended with the whole gym on its feet. By his senior year, Benji was averaging 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. McDonald's All-American, #1 in the nation. And for the first time, Chicago wasn't chasing the rest of the country in basketball. The rest of the country was chasing Chicago. By the fall of 1984, Benji Wilson wasn't just a basketball player, he was the basketball player. Every game was sold out, every headline had his name in it, and every kid in Chicago wanted to be the next number 25. The attention was intoxicating, but it came with a price. Every move he made was watched, every decision was judged. The city wasn't just cheering for him, it was counting on him. He was Chicago's answer to the greats, the homegrown superstar they'd been waiting for, offers from every major college in the country, dreams of the NBA, and beyond. But the weight was heavy, and the world around him was changing fast. Chicago in the mid-'80s wasn't an easy place to be young and famous. The streets had rules, gangs claimed corners, a wrong word to the wrong person could change everything. Benji knew that, everyone did, but he carried himself like the rules didn't apply to him, not out of arrogance, but because basketball had given him a shield. At least, that's what everyone thought. November 20th, 1984. It was the first day of basketball season. Benji Wilson woke up like any other morning. He had plans to meet his girlfriend before practice. It was a crisp, cold Tuesday in Chicago, the kind of morning where the air stings your lungs, but your mind is already on the game that night. Benji left his house wearing his Letterman jacket, blue and gold, 25 stitched into the sleeve. Around 12:30 p.m., he and his girlfriend walked to a local corner store near Vincennes Avenue. It was a busy street, cars passing, people moving in and out of shops. That's when they crossed paths with 2 young men they didn't know. What happened next? Depends on who you ask. Some say words were exchanged, some say it was a bump on the sidewalk, but whatever it was, it escalated fast. One of the men, 16-year-old Billy Moore, pulled out a small caliber pistol. In the middle of that crowded street, he fired once. The bullet struck Benji in the chest. Panic exploded. People screamed. Cars swerved to get away. Benji collapsed onto the pavement, gasping for breath. The life that had seemed unstoppable was suddenly hanging by a thread. Benji Wilson was still conscious when paramedics arrived. Barely. The bullet had torn through his chest, damaging his aorta. Every second mattered, but instead of rushing him to the nearest hospital, the ambulance took him to St. Bernard, a small community hospital without the facilities for trauma surgery. It was a decision that would haunt Chicago forever. By the time they realized St. Bernard couldn't handle his injuries, precious minutes had slipped away. But in trauma care, minutes aren't just minutes, they're life. Family members rushed to the ER, friends and teammates crowded the waiting room praying for a miracle. Outside, word was spreading through the city. From playground courts to corner stores, the question was the same: is Benji going to make it? In the operating room, surgeons fought to repair the damage. They worked for hours, but the blood loss was too severe. Late that night, the doctor stepped out into the hallway and gave Mary Wilson the news no mother should ever hear. Benji was gone, 17 years old, one day before his senior season opener. The news spread through Chicago like a shockwave. By sunrise the next day, Benji Wilson's name was on every front page. High school star gunned down, Chicago's #1 player dead at 17. Radio hosts broke from music to talk about him. TV anchors choked back emotion while delivering the story. In a city that had seen its share of violence, this one felt different. At Simeon, grief hit like a punch to the chest. Teammates sat in the locker room staring at the empty space where Benji's jersey hung. Some cried openly, some couldn't speak at all. On the south side, strangers who had never met him lined up outside the school just to leave flowers. The gym he had filled with joy was now filled with silence. His funeral drew thousands, classmates, fans, coaches, and NBA stars. They packed the church, spilling out into the streets. People held up number 25 signs not as fans, but as mourners. For Chicago's basketball community, this wasn't just losing a player, it was losing the belief that talent alone could carry you out. In death, Benji Wilson became more than a player, he became a symbol. Simeon retired his number 25 immediately. No one would ever wear it again without carrying his name. But that tradition grew into something more. Years later, Simeon's best player each season would wear number 25, not as a jersey, but as a responsibility. From Nick Anderson in the late 80s to Derrick Rose in the 2000s to Jabari Parker a decade later, each one carried Benji with them every time they stepped on the court. They weren't just playing for wins, they were playing for him. His story became required knowledge for every Chicago Hooper. If you played in the city, you knew about Benji. You knew the warning his life carried, and you knew the pride his name brought. Even today, on courts from the south side to the suburbs, kids wear number 25 without ever having seen him play. Because in Chicago, number 25 doesn't just mean a number, it means greatness, and it means never forgetting. In death, Benji Wilson became more than a player. He became a symbol of what Chicago lost and what it keeps hoping for. In 2022, the city made it official, renaming the intersection near his home in his honor, a street sign that will outlast the people who put it there. Every November, alumni and fans gather under that sign. They light candles, tell stories, and speak his name into the cold night air, not just to remember, but to remind. Because in Chicago, Benji's story isn't just history, it's a lesson passed down like family, told in gyms, on playgrounds, and in backyards where kids still dream of making it big. Ask around and you'll hear it from coaches, from parents, from old heads watching from the sidelines. Don't forget Benji. 4 decades later, his shadow still stretches over this city, and for every kid chasing the game, it's a reminder that talent can take you far, but it's never a guarantee you'll get there. Some say he could have been the next Magic Johnson. Others swear he had the skill to go toe-to-toe with any player in the NBA. But the truth? We'll never see it. We only get the fragments, the grainy highlight tapes, the stories from teammates, the memories of those who saw him light up a court. And that's the real tragedy. Not just that we lost a great player, but that we lost the life that came with him. The college games, the NBA nights, the championships, the kids he might have coached, the lives he might have changed, all of it, gone in a moment. His story is a reminder that talent isn't bulletproof, that dreams need more than skill to survive, and that sometimes the greatest what if in sports isn't about a missed shot or a bad game, it's about the game we never got to see. Some names fade with time, but in Chicago, Benji Wilson's never has. Every year, his story finds someone new, a kid in a park hearing it from an older brother, a coach telling it in a locker room before tip-off, a parent reminding their son to keep their head on straight. Now it's in your hands. Don't let it end on this screen. Carry it forward, tell the story, pass on the lesson, because legacies aren't just built on what someone did while they were alive, they're built on how far their name travels after they're gone. Make sure Benji's name keeps moving, make sure it keeps reaching the next kid with a dream. That's how we make sure there isn't another what if.